explored by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun, and all of them are meaningless, chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I've experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to understanding wisdom, and also of madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. I was thinking about the lives of people that have been changed quickly and dramatically. I think about people like Paul Walker. I liked watching his movies at age 40. Paul was killed quickly and tragically in an automobile accident. He was in the movies Fast and Furious and that whole series. I enjoyed watching those. He was pursuing a lot of things in life and done well, had some problems on the side that were challenges in his life, but he was being blessed so incredibly through his movies and through the money he was making. Or I think about at age 25 that hit home here to us just this last year, this year. Royals pitcher Rodano Ventura, who had gone home and was killed in an automobile accident. He had just signed contracts totaling, can you believe this, totaling $4.8 million as a pitcher. And had some struggles back home, had grown up in a difficult situation, but was pursuing the dream here, playing baseball. Or even longer ago, you can think of the death of Princess Diana in Paris. She had everything in the world to offer, didn't she? Wealth, beauty, and popularity, yet she had a failed marriage, court battles for her children, rumored eating disorders, constant struggles to find privacy. And the car that she and her boyfriend were in that night, they were driving, trying to elude the paparazzi. Now listen, for all three of these, all the treasures of this world are peace of mind. Really? They had a lot. They had everything. How does life make sense in the midst of that? Well, Solomon writes to us, and it's a pretty heavy book. If you've never ever read Ecclesiastes, it can be a challenging book to read. It's almost kind of depressing if you look through it. Solomon was the son of King David and now king himself. He tried to experience everything this world also has to offer, just like these people that I mentioned. And Ecclesiastes is his life journal of trying to experience everything. And he had it all. It says, there are some key phrases in the scripture here that you need to catch hold of and hold on to. Under the sun and under heaven. Those are key phrases that are used in the book of Ecclesiastes as you read through the entire text. Because that for him is the picture of life without God. When he starts using those phrases, under the sun, under heaven, he's talking about under God. Something without God in it. And he understands that all of life is meaningless without God. You can pursue so many things and have everything in the world, and yet it's meaningless without God. And the word Ecclesiastes itself means the preacher. The preacher. It means there's a word to be shared in a public setting. And Ecclesiastes has something to say to us today. And I want to start out in this section in thinking about what he's talking about, wisdom, knowledge, and education. We're getting ready to celebrate baccalaureate services here in the community, many schools, kids applying to colleges. And, I've been on that journey with my own children before, and I think about my niece calling me and trying to decide which college she's going to go to and how she can get really smart by going to college. And that's the journey of many of the people you know right now, isn't it? That pursuit of knowledge and wisdom and education. Linda, you and I were talking about your grandson. And how old is he? He's graduating this year, isn't he? Graduating this year. So there's so many things about wisdom and knowledge we need to think about. Let's look at what Solomon says. Will you with me? 3 lessons from Solomon, I think, between secular education and godly wisdom. Because there's a huge difference. So let's look in the scriptures about that. The first thing that I think he says is, as I look at verse 13 again, it says, I applied my mind to study and explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. There's that phrase. He's trying to say that knowledge is desirable, so pursue it. Go after it. How many of you believe that? That knowledge is desirable. We should pursue it as people, I believe. In 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 34, we have another recollection of Solomon's life. And it's talking about who Solomon really is. Think about this for a minute. Solomon was a scholar. He wrote songs, beautiful music. He wrote literature. He was an author. He wrote about the birds of the air. He had a reputation as what? What was the thing you remember about Solomon saying? Wise. He was the wisest man ever. The wisest man in the world. Now, God is pleased, I believe, if we learn. Now, we have settled many times in our culture that maybe once we graduated, we're done learning. My friends, that is not from God. We should be lifelong learners. My grandson Clayton, when he was about 1 1/2, his grandpa thought it would be beneficial to buy him some of those puzzles, big wooden puzzles. They only have about, how many pieces now? 6, 8, 9, 10 pieces. They're big puzzles. And he would, even at 1 1/2, try to put all those pieces together with the different shapes. And he'd struggle with it. He'd maybe get all the pieces put together and there'd be one left. And he'd really struggle with putting that puzzle in with the other ones. So that frustrated me. I would go down and put my hand on his and try to help him guide into the right spot. And finally, after practicing a lot, he got those puzzles down really well, 6, 7, 8 piece puzzles. Well, then his mama, my wife's daughter, thought it'd be great to buy him some 25 and 30 piece puzzles. And if I was going crazy with a 6 piece puzzle, I was going absolutely out of my mind. Yeah, watching him try to put together those puzzles with 25, 30, 40 pieces at 1 1/2, it was going to send me to the Osawatomie Mental Health Hospital. Okay? Because it was driving me crazy trying to watch him go through that process with greater challenges of more stimulation. His stimulation was going to drive me crazy. Now, I think God gave us a progressively difficult puzzle to stimulate our minds. Have you ever thought about this? God could have, because God can do anything. How many of you believe that? God can do anything. All things are possible with God. Now, God could have, with Adam and Eve in the garden, said, here's the latest iPad. Here's the latest iPhone. Here's the most advanced computer ever. And here is a space station that works, and a rocket that can go to Mars now, and here's the Hubble telescope. God could have given all that to Adam and Eve at that moment, at the beginning of creation, correct? God could have. But what God chose to do was, you start here, and instead you keep growing, and you keep learning. God gave us a progressively difficult puzzle to stimulate our minds and to teach us to keep learning. And that's what Solomon is learning. That we're in a journey of learning, education, and wisdom. In 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, it says, study to show thyself approved. Will you say that with me? Study to show thyself approved. Even this godly man sent by God, named Paul, was teaching young Timothy as he was going into the ministry, study. Study. Turn to somebody and just say that right now. Study. Just say it to someone. Turn around and look. Study. That is... Winston, you don't like to hear that word from your mom. Study. I think about that with my own kids. Study. Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. For example, God's truth is the truth, isn't it? If we study history, and we should study history, we honor God by, for example, what we just talked about with the Holocaust, not repeating that history. Sarju, we talk about often the history of your country. So, and we should learn from that for what reason? We should study history so that that will never be repeated. Does that make sense to you? So we should study to show thyself approved, that we might not repeat the same mistakes in the history of our world again. We need to know science. I'm glad Debbie and Leanne, as physicians, are here and have studied science, aren't you? It's made me feel better a whole lot of times. We should study medicine to understand how to be better at what we do with our bodies, so that as we attack diseases, we can live and honor God even longer and bless God. We should study math. I think it pleases God to study math, that we might understand the difference between finite and infinite. An infinite God that is forever. We should have knowledge of music and arts to help us praise God in song. We should understand and study the arts that we might bless God. Bach said this: the end of all music is to honor God and renew the Spirit. Isn't that a great thought? The end of all music. Now that means, some of you are going to be bothered by this, that can be country music. That can be hard rock music. I can remember going to hear my time in the late 70s and early 80s, one of the first big Christian rock groups. Everybody said, oh, that's of the devil. But when you stop to listen to the words were words of faith by a group called Petra. None of you remember that hardly, do you? And I remember one of those concerts when my ears were ringing and I couldn't hardly hear anything after that concert. But the words were phenomenal. We should study these things. Gain as much knowledge of this world as you can. It helps you know God and to be a more effective servant. Well then, okay? Don't stop learning. Keep studying. Look at verse 14. I have seen all the things that are under the sun. All of them are meaningless, like chasing after the wind. Here's something that's interesting. When he uses that phrase, under the sun, again, what he's talking about here is, I've seen all that you can learn about under the sun, all the things without God. And he's saying that education without God is futile. So beware of it. Education without God is futile, my friends. Secular education, I believe this, without God, will not reveal God's ultimate truth. And God has ultimate truth. In fact, in 1 Corinthians 1:18 it says, the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. It can be foolishness. Benjamin Rush. Do any of you know who Benjamin Rush is? And he was one of the original founders of our country. I love reading about history. He called us, and he is best known for starting schools, public education. You can read about his life. He said you cannot take the Bible, God's education, away from people without it becoming futile. We've all been around people who have made almost a career out of education, haven't you? Have you known somebody like that? Maybe one of your kids, and you've enjoyed paying for their college and graduate school and postgraduate for a long time. I think my mom and dad wondered about that for a long time as I went and received and worked on a couple of master's degrees. But listen, when he was talking about it, you can get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, and many people I know finally realize that doesn't bring enough satisfaction. And they want to go get one more degree to try to find satisfaction in something. And it won't bring satisfaction in and of itself. that diploma ultimately will not satisfy you. It won't bring maybe what you're looking for. Maybe it will give you a great career, but the diploma will not necessarily bring the satisfaction in life. There's got to be something more. There was a man who was not well educated. And he went into a church one day and applied for the position of janitor. It was First Baptist Church of Corbin, Kentucky. He went in and applied and filled out, was handed the employment application, but couldn't fill it out because he couldn't read or write. So he went in to talk with the pastor. The pastor realized the man was uneducated, and the pastor really didn't want somebody as uneducated as him on his staff. It would be great, you know. So he said, "Thank you very much." He was kind, gave him a bag of apples, and said, "I pray this will be a blessing to you as you go into your journey." As the man was leaving, he ate one of the apples, then decided that he'd stand on the street corner, and he was really in need of finances, so he sold the rest of the apples. He made enough money that with the money he earned, he bought more apples, and sold so many that he opened up a little fruit stand. He did so well at selling apples at his little fruit stand that then he bought the local grocery store. And one day he marched into the bank of his hometown in Corbin, Kentucky with $1 million in cash in a bag. The banker was the riddle. So he sat down with the man and he gave him a bunch of forms to fill out to open up an account and deposit this $1 million into an account. And the man said, "Well, I can't read or write." And the banker was amazed. He said, "Really? You've done this without being able to read or write? Do you know where you'd be today if you were educated?" The man said, "Yes, I'd be the janitor at First Baptist Church." Education, listen, is not always the answer. It isn't. There are at least a couple of problems I thought of this week that education by itself cannot answer. The first is death. You can have lots of education, and you cannot solve the problem of death. It says in verse 16, when Solomon writes this, he says, "The wise man must die too." Guess what percentage of people die? The wise and the foolish, Solomon would say. You can be the brightest, most educated person. And you remember Carl Sagan? I remember hearing about him at high school, studying Carl Sagan. Wise scientist, but guess what? He died. Or in 2016, somebody I was intrigued by is Marvin Minsky. He was one of the major developers of artificial intelligence. But guess what? As smart as he was, as many PhDs as he had, he died. And so the Scripture teaches us everyone dies, and education can't stop that or solve it. It also can't solve the sinful nature of people, can it? Solomon said, "What is twisted cannot be straightened." Education does not fix our evil nature. We have a tendency to go back to that evil nature if you're not, and education can't stop that. You know what's amazing to me, and some of you may disagree with this, but I don't think, really, all the millions and millions and millions that have been given in sex education stop people from having sex before they were married. I don't think necessarily millions poured into drug education keep people from doing drugs. In fact, we see it on the rise. What do we do about that? We can be smarter, be more educated, but it keeps happening. Sensitivity training does not necessarily keep people from being sexist or racist, does it? We can talk about it and learn all the facts, but that does not change our heart. Just knowing more information. Do you hear what I'm saying? I can remember on our campus, the college president said, "We're going to ban drinking on campus." Now that was brilliant. Because then we all had to get in our cars and drive 3 miles down the road to Frisco's, the local bar, so that we could drink, and then drive back home while 2 more of our classmates were killed in a car accident. So knowing about stuff in and of itself, education in and of itself, does not change the heart, does it? That is what Solomon was trying to explain to us. We may think education is the answer. It is not the answer. The truth of God permeating our heart is the answer. That is the difference. Romans chapter 1, let me read it to you. Verse 21 and 22. It says they knew God, but they did not glorify God. Their thinking became, you know what the word is? Futile. They claimed to be wise, but actually they were fools. And it was because they thought just learning more would make us better people. And it does not. Thomas Soleil has written a great book. I would recommend this book to anyone to be able to read. It is called Inside American Education. He says, today the goal isn't communicating truth, but helping people feel better about themselves and building self-esteem. One of the quotes in the book was by a student, what we learned from Miss Silvers in class is that we were worth listening to. We could be wrong, but we were worth listening to. Even if we were wrong, it didn't matter. We were worth listening. Miss Silver said herself, I want all my children to be able to express themselves. Whether they learn truth or not is not the goal anymore. Truth does not matter. What? Because education in and of itself, feeling better about yourself, is not what changes you and makes you a better person and brings purpose in your life. The point is, she said, of all education, is that we should feel better about ourselves. Isn't that good? It doesn't matter whether we teach truth and fact any longer. We should just feel good about ourselves. We don't want anything. I will tell you one of my points as a former student athlete that just drives me crazy are participating trophies. Guess what, kids? In this life, you're never going to be first or last. You're never going to lose. You're never going to win. It's just we're all on the equal level field, and we should feel good about ourselves. Right? That drives me crazy. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose, and you better learn what it means to lose right now. And I go watch my grandson play 3-year-old soccer at Medora. That's an adventure. Watching, all these little kids just kick the ball up and down the field. But guess what? And I applauded the director that put that together. Because they're going to give out first place trophies, second place trophies, and they'll still give out participating trophies that you participated in the league. But somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose, and that's our world. And that is the truth, isn't it? How many of you think everybody always wins? There are never any losers. How many of you? And yet that's our education process today. We think education is about making us feel better. And it permeates the church. Because when the pastor speaks about that God created a heaven for us, when we accept Jesus Christ to be our Lord and Savior, that we can spend an eternity with God. But we can also choose to spend an eternity away from God. And that's called hell. Oh, we don't want to talk about that, Pastor. Guess what? You can choose to be away from God forever. Or you can choose to be with God forever. And that's the truth, isn't it? God gave us that freedom to be able to do that. But we don't want to hear that because we think everybody wins. You know what it's called? It's called universal salvation in our world today. It's permeating every church. That we think a loving God cannot possibly give someone the option to spend an eternity away from God. And that's being taught in many pulpits today. My friends, that is not the truth. Now, it wasn't meant by God to be mean. God does not send you there. You get to go there on your own. You get to decision because God loves you so much. God wants your love, but God can also handle your rejection. God doesn't want that, but you can freely choose to reject God. But we don't want that. Everybody gets to go to heaven, right? Universal salvation. I do not believe that's what the Scripture teaches at all, because I think Jesus said, I am the truth. And what's in the Scripture we should wrestle with. It may not be easy to understand, but we should wrestle with those. Y'all doing okay? Y'all look very heavy right now. This is tough stuff, isn't it? As people of faith. But that's part of our journey. Here's the last point I'll give to you quickly. It's actually at the end of the book, Ecclesiastes 12. I kind of jumped ahead. I didn't read this earlier with you. But it's kind of his conclusion at the end in the last chapter of Ecclesiastes. And it's particularly verses 13 and 14. Now, everything's been heard. There is the conclusion of the matter. This is his final word. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the duty of everyone. This is the guy who's journaling. I tried everything. Wisdom, money, education, women, song, everything. But obeying God and keeping His commandments is the truth. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it's good or evil. I think the conclusion of this has something to say to us as we think about this whole idea of wisdom versus education, and thinking somehow that education is going to be the answer to all our problems. He says, respecting and following after God is what the real truth is. After he went on that long journey. And I think that is countercultural. Do you believe that today? It is absolutely opposed to our culture today. To just follow God and follow God, what God teaches us. So here's a word. Maybe it's to some teachers. Teach counterculturally. Teach the truth. Here's to parents. Lead counterculturally. Take responsibility for your child's education. It says in the Bible, you fathers, teach your children the way of the Lord. Fathers, are you doing that, or are you letting mom just do it? It's reminding us that we as men are to lead the way. We're not to just find somebody else who can take care of it. We are called to lead and to teach. Sometimes there's family situations where mom's the one that's there, and that's the only one. You teach boldly. You teach counterculturally. Parents, you will be held accountable, I think the Scripture says. Parents and grandparents, you read what is in those textbooks that your kids or grandkids are learning from. You read it with them, and you see what we are teaching today. Know what your child or grandchild or niece or nephew is being taught. Know what the college is going to be like. I love the ratings every year when I read the magazines that come out, because they rank which are the best party colleges. And KU is not at the bottom of the list, or K-State with Aggieville. I'll let both of you be equal rights people, okay? They're not at the bottom of the list. We should ask ourselves some tough questions. Is my child strong enough to voice the truth against many non-godly teachings on campus? Have you equipped your child or grandchild to stand up for the truth when they're confronted with things that are not the truth? I would say to students, learn counterculture. Make up your mind to pursue a great education, but it must be founded ultimately on God's truth. I found it very interesting when I went to undergraduate that I heard my professors all talk about, I want to teach you to be open-minded and tolerant and diverse. Did any of you hear that in the school at all? Be open-minded, be tolerant, be diverse. Except if you disagree with me. Right? Except if you disagree. If you're a person of faith, that can't be accepted. And I remember being a person of faith, and I was ridiculed by a professor that said, we're all about open-mindedness. And I didn't understand that. Jesus said in the Scriptures, I'm sending you out as lambs among wolves. And we have to be mentally and spiritually tough. We have to be wise. And wisdom And this happens in a lot of places. My son was invited to write a paper on any book that he chose. And so, Lance is a pretty strong believer. So he chose one of the books of the Bible and wrote his paper. And the teacher gave him because the Bible books were not acceptable as literature. I said, Lance, let's go out and visit the school, my son. And I asked for a conference with the principal, the vice principal, and the teacher. And I knew the teacher well. The teacher was a non-believer. And I said, I want the chance for you to take my son's paper and base it on literature. And I want you to reevaluate your effort. Because we're going to have some serious problems because you told the children directly that they could choose any book they wanted. And Lance chose a little book called 1 Timothy about a younger guy that was being called by God to do God's work. We went back, and Lance, amazing, became a much improved student and made an A on it. And one of the things I pray he learned, if anything, is that truth is not whatever we make it up to be. But that there's one who said, I am the way and the truth. You go pursue as much education as you can. And I pray I'm still learning and reading. One of the things I love about Dr. Walker is that he and I can talk, and I like to hear about the latest book that he's reading. Kathy and Netri loves to read. I pray that when I'm retired, not in the pulpit every week, I'm still learning and still reading, but still being able to say the real wisdom, the real truth. And I want to be a lifelong learner. How about you? Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for the challenges that Solomon brings into our lives. He challenges us to keep on learning, spending a lifetime learning, but also understanding that all of that can be futile. That can die. Thank you for all the times he messed up and tried to find meaning and purpose in all